Here it is. Okay.
Are we recording now? You tell me when we're started.
We have
Yeah.
started.
Okay. Okay, so today I'm going to read a few paragraphs from Discourses, pages 48 and 50. And I've actually read these in the beginning of the work we are doing together. But when I go over these, I can never get tired of hearing Baba's words, and they're so important for the work we're doing. So he says, thought has to be made use of in order to overcome the limitations set up by its own movement. But when this is done, it has itself to be given up. This amounts to the process of going beyond the mind. And this becomes possible through non-identification with the mind or its desires. So I'm just going to stop here for a minute because Byron Katie says that's the most important thing that we get from doing the work is to learn to disidentify from our thoughts, our mind. And here Bob is saying we need to not, he says, the process of going beyond the mind, and this becomes possible through non-identification with the mind and thoughts or its desires. To look objectively upon the body as well as all thoughts and lower impulses is to get established in blissful detachment and to negate all sanskaras. This means freeing the soul from its self-imposed illusions like, I am the body, I am the mind, or I am desire, and gaining ground toward the enlightened stage of I am God. So that's what we're working on today. We're going to go beyond the identification with our body. And then he goes on to say on page 50, the mind becoming accustomed to certain habits of thought and response does not find it easy to adjust itself to these new claims of its own perceptions, owing to the inertia caused by impressions of previous modes of thought and conduct. This process of readjustment in the light of true values takes the form of what we call controlling the mind. This control is not a mechanical or forcible twisting of the mind. It is an effort of the mind to overcome its own inertia. And I'm just going to stop here for a minute and tell you that's what we're doing when we go through the 4 questions and turnarounds. We're not forcing it, but we're making an effort to overcome the inertia of those deeply ingrained beliefs that we have. That's why we look at the opposite and find where's that truth. So Baba goes on to say, this process is fundamentally creative and not negative in its purpose, for it is an attempt of the mind to arrive at self-adjustment in order to release the expression of the true values of life. So that's our beloved Baba. Does anybody have any comments before I read a few more short quotes from Baba on the body? Okay, so this is from Lord Maher, 1944, when the Memorial Tower was first being dedicated. And Baba says, the symbolic and this is from page 2454. The symbolic representation of these departed souls through flowers dispenses with the separative I can't pronounce it, burying or cremation ceremonies, which are prevalent in different societies. The placing of all these flowers in the same foundation is intended to emphasize the truth that though the bodies of these devotees were different, they were all parts of one eternal and indivisible soul. The Memorial Tower has completely dispensed with the physical bodies of departed souls, for the physical body is only the illusory shadow of the soul. And that's why I've titled these sessions on the body to be the body as shadow. The body is the shadow of the soul. And then he says, those devotees well, no, that's enough for that one. And then this one is this is when Baba was in Zurich in 1934. And he was giving private interviews. And at 9 a.m., a workman who had become paralyzed came, and Baba said to him, it is not the paralysis of the body that matters, but of the mind that retards the soul. And then he said, I will help you spiritually, for I appreciate the spirit in which you bear all your suffering. So this is what Byron Katie says, and this is what we're working on. We want the mind, whatever we believe about our aging body, we're going to turn it to our mind. Baba said, it is not the paralysis of the body that matters, but the mind that retards the soul. So our aging bodies do not retard our soul's awakening. It's just the mind that tends to block it. And then this is another quote it's from the book by Bill LePage, The Turning of the Key. And Mani was sharing some of the bits that Baba had said to them. And Mani saying, and as I remember Erich explaining afterwards, Baba said, I am never sorry for anyone who dies. He who dies with my name on his lips, with me in his heart, never dies. I never worry about them, for theirs is no loss. If I am ever worried, it is for those that suffer through the death which they might allow to alienate them from me. That would be their loss indeed. Why suffer unnecessarily? My, quote, dead, unquote, live in me. That should make you happy, so why not rejoice in his happiness? And this was in relationship to when Arnavaz's brother had been killed in an airplane crash. And so he's with Nariman and Arnavaz and the family. And he says, loving me as you do, knowing me for the one I am, you should be only happy to know Nozer is happy in me. Knowing this, any mourning you may do, therefore, must be for yourselves only, from selfish motives. Okay, so and the quotes I'm going to read to you now from Byron Katie, Question Your Thinking. It's a little book, Question Your Thinking. It's the same flavor as what Baba was just saying. And it's, it's really challenging to realize the truth, because we're so raised and in belief of this world being real. But that's what I love about coming together and spending time remembering Baba's words and finding an inquiry that just helps us to get closer to him and closer to really the truth. So I'm going to just read you a few quotes from Byron Katie, and I'm starting on page 52, and I'm just going to skip through this is a book of little paragraphs, and it's broken down, and I'm reading from the chapter on health, sickness, and death. So Katie says, you're in the perfect health whether you like it or not. You tell the story of how you're supposed to be stronger or healthier so that you don't have to know that your condition is perfect. My condition is perfect for what I need to do now, for where I need to be now. I'm without a future. The body is never our problem. Our problem is always a thought that we innocently believe. And then she goes on to say the work deals with our thinking, not with the object that we think we're addicted to. So then she says, I've marked some of these pages here. She says, bodies are as innocent as trees or flowers or breath. There's nothing else to do but get well, and that's not up to the body. Ultimately, the body isn't going to make it, and this is good news. It's over. Forget it. Let's work with what we do have. Can you get it from here? If this body story were true, it would mean that no fat person could be self-realized, no one in a wheelchair, no one old or sick, no one who isn't beautiful. This leaves out practically the whole human race. Almost no one has a chance for freedom under this theory. We're all waiting until we get the body perfect to be peaceful. Can we just do it from here now? And then this is funny. She says, if it comes to me to take my estrogen, I do it. If it doesn't come to me, I don't. So I'm always directed. And they say, oh, poor thing, she died because she didn't take her whatever it was. Well, you're stuck with that story and I'm free. And so are you if you do inquiry, because it's always about the story. That's why it's so wonderful to be sick and to get old. It's wonderful to lose your legs or your arms or your eyes or your loved ones. Investigate the stressful thoughts you have about your condition until you see that it's the perfect condition for you. When you believe your thoughts, you rape your body by saying it should be more beautiful, healthier, it should be taller, shorter, fatter, thinner, younger, stronger. You take a perfect body and trash it. Awareness is so much more exciting than a body. When you're asleep, does your body hurt? When you're in the worst pain and the phone rings and it's the call you've been waiting for and you're mentally focused on the phone call, there's no pain. If you change your thinking, you change the pain. So I'm just going to pause here, and I do have some more paragraphs to read, but I just want to stop and see if anybody has any thoughts, any comments before I continue on. And my intention here is to just give us that clearer perspective. You know, Baba's the highest of the high, and when we hear his words, which I read at first, it's so lofty, and yet here's an ordinary woman who's pretty much saying the same thing, and in her own words. And so I just find it helps to hear it said in a different way. So here we go. Yes.
Hi. One thing I read is that the body is the mold of the mental and subtle bodies. So whatever it is we're experiencing as the body, in the realm of illusion, of course, is still the mold of all of our thoughts and all of our feelings. That's what we are seeing. So that's just something I wanted to add or say.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I've thought about that a lot, and it's like a big question mark for me, because I mean, I believe that's true. The body is a reflection probably of mind, of our sanskars and all of that. And yet, as Baba says, and as Katie is saying in her own way, whatever infirmities we have, we don't have to really feel bad about it, because who knows what we're working through. We just do the best with what we have, and I don't think we can really know the mystery of all that we've been through since the beginning of time. Does that make sense?
And the mold and the shadow seem like they're synonymous, or at least.
Yeah, well, that actually is, yeah, that's very succinct. Thank you, Diantha, because the shadow is always a more formed, you know, like a form, something that's coming into a more form. Even a shadow is more formed than spirit. So
I like how it lifts, it kind of removes the fear factor, you know, just
yeah,
people,
yeah, it's all just a
afraid.
It's all just kind of a big unknowable adventure. I mean, there's no way to know why things happen or what's going to happen next. And, you know, the experience I have when I've been with Katie is she's just like going there for the ride, and she has complete trust that God is good, that the universe is friendly. And, you know, she tells a story. She had, I forget what you call it. It's an eye condition where she was actually not able to see very well. And she fell down a set of stairs, and she was like, she talks about it where she was just enjoying the trip. Oh, this is interesting. I'm falling down the stairs. Now, I've never met anybody else like that, but it's a nice example, you know, to know that perhaps, you know, there's a way to become so detached from the physical form. Okay, so I'm going to read a few more of these paragraphs before we go into our inquiry for today. So Katie says, how do you live when you believe your health problems shouldn't be there? You can't even tell us the truth. You can't even cough or blow your nose honestly, or let us know you're not feeling well. Who would you be without the story, I should feel better? You'd be free. I love this old age thing. It blows apart every concept about health. I'm 90 years old and I have arthritis, but I should move fluidly. I don't think so. That kind of thinking is true masochism. When I say that my body should move fluidly, how does that make me feel when it doesn't? How do you live when you believe that your vibrations are too low to heal your body? Masochism. War. Who would you be without that theory? A little more relaxed, a little more ready for healing. Bodies don't have the power to take away your peace. I'd rather be happy instead and let the body do what it does. When you believe that you are this body, you stay limited, small, apparently encapsulated as one separate form. So every thought has to be about your survival or your comfort or your pleasure, because if you let up for a moment, there would be no body identification. When you dream, you are the whole dream and everything in it. You have to be. You're the dreamer. You're bodiless, you're free, you're a man, you're a woman, a dog, a tree. You're all of it simultaneously. Nothing is ever stable because you can't body identify. There's no identification you can attach to. That's how unlimited the mind is when there's no particular body to be. This one's funny. Someone said this morning, you look like you're losing weight. Good. You look like you're gaining weight. Good. You look old. Good. You look young. Good. Body is not my business. My thinking is. So watch the masochistic thoughts you believe in order to stay body identified and have fun. A peaceful mind doesn't care about a body. So one more here. Your shoulder shouldn't hurt. Is that true? It hurts exactly the way it does. It should hurt exactly the way it does. It's a flat out lie that it shouldn't. Your story is how you keep yourself in time and space and duality. This is not a right or wrong. We're looking at reality here. If you argue with reality, if you lie about what you know is true, it feels stressful. It opposes what you are. It's not supposed to hurt like this. Feel how painful that thought is. How many times have you been there? I used to live in that place. I lived there in bed for years. No wonder you cry when you say, my shoulder shouldn't hurt this much. Because your shoulder should hurt this much. It should because it does. That's reality. And I'm going to read one more because this one really hits home for me. If you believe that certain foods are really good for you and you love eating those foods and you feel good when you eat them and it feels like loving yourself, that sounds very sweet to me. It sounds like a peaceful, honest way of living. The war starts when you believe that other people should eat that way too. Your partner or your children, for example. You can't know what's best for them. Maybe your carrot is their ice cream. You just can't know their path. Do you know yours? Okay. Anybody have any more thoughts they'd like to share?
Well, I was thinking of that book, Tuesdays with Maury, about college professor at Harvard who got ALS and had such a positive attitude about it. Because
beautiful book.
It really is. And his students used to come and feed him and he would give him little sage bits of wisdom. And he said he liked having it because he got to be like a baby again.
Yeah, it's that my son gave me that book to read. I think he was like a college, something he was reading in college, but that's such a perfect example of how we are loved for our souls, not for our bodies. And his, all the people in his life just loved him. Yeah.
And he even had a living funeral where he invited people to come over and say nice things about him before he died.
Yeah. Yeah, good way to break the curse about funerals, right? You know, there's so many morbid beliefs about death, and it's just like, you know, I mean, I still go, well, when my time comes, like if my husband dies first, will I be able to not grieve? Well, I don't know, but I'm working on it, you know?
Yeah.
Baba doesn't really want us to do that because there is no death. The soul just goes on.
In some cultures, they actually celebrate death.
Yeah. Well, I mean, aren't the Irish known for their wakes and partying?
It's not Irish. It's like Buddhist or something. I can't remember who it is.
Yeah.
Culture.
So now I'm just going to read you a couple quotes from Baba on the musts and their body identification or lack thereof, which will set us for our inquiry. This is from Lord Meher. This was at the Mehrabad Sahavas in 1955. And Baba said, while we are on the subject of colds, before I go any further, I will explain in a few words what I told the Gujarati and Telugu groups. It is but natural for the human body on this gross plane to fall ill. But when one loses oneself in the love of the beloved, then the body is immune from illness. The fire of love burning within is such that it neutralizes any bodily disorder. The love of the must for God has no comparison. Very, very few possess such love, and their bodies remain unaffected. And then this one was from 1940 when he was in seclusion. And he just said, he was talking about King Must, Fulwala, and Child Must, Karim Baba. And he said they never get sick because their body is their slave, instead of their being slaves to their body. So we have a lot to aspire to. So last week, we did the number one statement, which I call our umbrella statement on the body for our Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. And we worked on the statement, my body isn't healthy enough. So this week, we're gonna zoom through, if we can, numbers 2, 3, and 4, the wants, the shoulds, and the needs, to finish up the work on the body today. And so what we're going to work on right now is my body, did somebody want to say something? Okay. I want my body to stop having aches and pains. Now, if that statement doesn't really work for you, please find what you want. And remember, the wants is where you get to tantrum and complain. But because we're doing a group inquiry, I have to find some kind of a generic situation. You could work on, I want my body to be flexible. I want my body to be in perfect alignment. But what I will be saying to you during the inquiry is, I want my body to stop having aches and pains, because that felt like something that a lot of us could relate to, okay? So now's the time to just take a few gentle breaths and just relax and drop into that inner wisdom, is what Byron Katie calls it. You know, Baba tells us that's his voice is the voice of intuition, and that's the voice deep within us that we are listening for. We want our inquiry to come from this place of a surrender and a contemplation. So, I want my body to stop having aches and pains. Is it true? Contemplate that. Is it true?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And then everybody just unmute, and when you're ready, it's just a yes or a no.
Yes.
And you know, this group inquiry is it's a gift to everybody who watches the videos because it kind of models how to do the work. So I'm always grateful for when it's comfortable for you to share.
I'm sorry, Anne, could you repeat the question? My internet threw me out, so I
sure.
didn't hear the question.
Yes. Is it true that you want your body to stop having aches and pains?
Yes.
Is that true? Okay. And now we're going to go into question 2, and that's where I always ask you to just contemplate for a full minute. Because remember that part of the left brain that we call the interpreter always wants to keep its story together. But we're looking for something that's deeper inside that may have a different perspective. And it's okay to still say whatever you decide to say because you can't answer wrong. Can you absolutely know that it's true that you want your body to stop having aches and pains?
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
I think of many reasons why I would want to have aches and pains, but I guess just to have empathy for other people who do is a reason enough. So I guess no.
Yeah. Okay. So if everybody's found their answer, we're going to move on to question 3. So Diantha, you can put up the sub questions. And I might have to leave for a minute because I might have to sign for a air conditioner that's arriving today. And so if I stop, Diantha, can you just stay with the sub questions? I heard somebody at the door, so I'm going to go and check. So I want my body to stop having aches and pains. How do you react when you believe that thought? Emotions do you feel? And so I'll be back and find out where you are, Diantha. So
Okay.
everybody just speak out the emotions.
I'm frustrated, worried,
Yeah, scared.
Emotionally constricted.
What was that?
Emotionally constricted.
Yeah.
I feel in resistance and just in general disease or dis-ease.
Not achieving my full potential.
Yeah. I feel sad.
The enlightened answer is yes. That's the enlightened answer. But natural inclination, I think for myself, I don't know about most people, but the natural inclination is when you feel intense pain, you really want it to leave. Really, it's very hard for me to accept intense pain physically.
Yeah.
So I know an enlightened person would say, yes, of course, I don't identify with the body. I am not the body. I am not the mind. But to be in that interior place, it takes whatever it takes through grace, I guess.
So when you're feeling awful and in so much pain and feeling that, believing that you want the pain to stop, so we just covered what emotions kind of arise in us when we're feeling that way. And obviously the next question, where do you feel that in your body, might be where the actual pain is, but are there any other places in the body that you feel the emotions of the wanting it to stop.
I feel it, inside my head, kind of mental,
Emotions.
but also head, heart. And I just wanted to say also, I know as someone who hasn't had a day without pain, that when I am resisting it, it gets worse and it becomes more all-consuming, and it just grows.
Thank you for that. Yes, I find that also when I resist it, if I can just try to be with it, and that doesn't mean I'm not going to take some pills. I've been having tremendous bunion pain, and I've been taking this curcumin that really helps. And so, there's nothing wrong with taking what we need to take, and then we still have to deal with the pain.
Yeah, I'll do everything I know to, that's good for me to do to help it, but I'm not in that when I'm in the mental resistance of like, oh God, this, I'm resisting to what's happening.
Yeah.
It makes
Yeah. Well, and of course, what comes up for me is, when I read it last week, but Baba says mental suffering sometimes we get physical suffering instead of mental suffering because it's not as hard as mental suffering. So I feel like we're always burning our sanskaras up when we do suffer. And so if there's any consolation in the physical suffering, we can remember that too. So does anybody else have anything that they'd like to add before we move on? So let's ask.
We were just kind of covering where you feel it in the body beyond where you feel the actual pain. So some people say the heart and then the mind.
Yeah. So what we do with that, we really go into that pain. So maybe we should do that now. Just wherever you feel the aching or the paining the most, go into that place and just be the witness of it, the objective observer. Because neuroscientists have found that when you really focus your attention, something will shift. Something may arise that's kinder underneath that pain. Or at the least it may diminish or move to another area. So why don't we just spend a minute with everyone going into that place that their body is leading them to.
And is it also the feelings that arise when you're believing the thought that you want the pain to stop, like that resistance that I was talking about, like that we're walking into that too, wherever that is held?
Yeah, usually, well, so yes, it's kind of a two-edged thing to the emotions and the sensations. But what I've found over the years is that it's very, very hard for many people to even locate in their body where the suffering is. And so because we've all learned to be more stalwart and try to repress things, but in the work we do the opposite. It's not that we're going to dwell in it and complain, but we're going to honor it and feel it for a minute or two. And in my experience, that always supports some deepening. And as you were saying earlier, Diantha, having pain really makes you feel compassion for others more. And I find that with this too, to be able to just be with my suffering, it does. It just makes you have empathy for the whole human condition. So usually you feel the emotion, and then you notice where do you feel that in your body, and then you describe the sensations. and then you stay with the sensation as the witness. And before we go on, I'll just pause here if anyone would like to share what they're experiencing. It's often the case that an image will arise when you go into the body, and something from childhood. So let's move on to whose business are you in when you're believing the thought that you want your body to stop having aches and pains? Whose business are you in?
Mine.
God's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would even say it's the body's business. It is God's business for sure. And yeah, I mean, that's probably the truest statement.
How is this answer?
Pardon?
How is this answer? It's the business of the Lord of Karma. And I mean that very sincerely. But I'd appreciate what you feel about my answer, all of us. The body suffers. It's not by accident.
No, there are no accidents. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know Lord of Karma, I mean, to me, Baba is everything. So I just go to him, you know, he's running the show. And
to me, it's one and the same. I heard the
and
term
also,
Lord of Karma.
Well, you know how Baba talks about the difference between wish and will. So everything happens according to God's will, but not necessarily according to God's wish or Baba's wish. So Baba might not want he might not want us to suffer, but we can certainly know that the will of God is inexorable. It just works automatically. So just notice now, how do you treat your body when you're believing the thought, I want my body to stop having aches and pains? So how do we treat the body when we're believing that thought?
I treat it like a stranger. It's a stranger. Instead of my gift for this lifetime is my house.
Thank you.
I treat it like a baby.
A crying baby?
Kind of,
Yeah, yeah. Like immature, you mean?
I just pamper it.
Oh, well, that's okay, I guess. I don't know. I mean, Baba definitely says he wants us to take care of our bodies. And to me, I mean, what I take away from this work is that there's a balance. There's you know, you can overdo it or you could underdo it. And maybe our job is to just find that way of taking care of it, but not, you know, being consumed with caring for it. That's my personal desire, I guess, is to find that balance. So when I'm believing the thought that I want my body to stop having aches and pains, I don't treat my body as a friend. You know, someone said as a stranger, but I probably treat my body as the enemy. Rah, 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 how can you do this to me? So good to notice. Anybody else notice how you treat your body when you're believing the thought that you want it to stop having aches and pains?
Well, I channel the energy. I try to clear the energy and, do some things that are very good. And like Tina said, nurturing, she said baby, but, it's more like nurse energy, what I can do. But I also remember that one time when I was with Kitty Davy, and she said to me, well, Baba said, never be afraid to use up the body.
Oh.
And, because she knew I had a lot of physical challenges, and I just did it anyway. And so it was like a supportive thing that she was saying. And I think of the Mandali and what they were put through, just like forget the body, just full speed ahead,
Yeah, thank you. And I loved your kitty impression. That was just a delight. So now I just want you to notice, so you can roll up the screen, Diantha. How do you treat yourself? So how do you treat yourself, your soul, when you're believing the thought that you want your body to stop having aches and pains? I mean, I immediately notice that I ignore it. I ignore my soul when I'm believing, that I want it to stop. I'm kind of whining about it.
Yeah, I'm the opposite.
Can you elaborate?
I'm not a stoic. I'm more of a hypochondriac.
Well, I wasn't being stoic in my answer. I was saying I just forget about my true self when I'm ignoring my true self when I'm believing that I want my body to stop having aches and pains. Yeah.
I think every ache or pain is COVID.
Okay. Anyone else before we go on? Okay, here's a good one. Addictions, obsessions. What addictions or obsessions manifest when you're believing the thought, I want my body to stop having aches and pains? I mean, what comes up for me is I can obsess about what I should do. Oh, I should try this, I should try that, yada, yada, yada. And it is an obsession.
I had a sugar addiction for probably over 20 years, and I really wanted to break it. And I was not obsessed, but I was pretty intent on getting off of that addiction. And long story short, I thought I was going to go on a non-gluten diet. So for a couple of months, I stopped eating cookies, cake, ice cream, breads, and I took off about 36 pounds. And then my doctor said, the best diet for you is the Mediterranean diet. I didn't say thank you, Dr. Christopher, for not telling me from the beginning, but because I misunderstood what I had to do, I inadvertently got off sugar. I don't touch it anymore, and it's wonderful not to have that pull. And I did have a lot of thinking over the years. I tried it probably 6 times to get off it. And then finally this thing happened, and boy, it was so wonderful that I could, I guess through Baba's grace, let go.
Thank you right now. Thank you. Anybody else want to share anything about addictions or addictions? So, what family?
Oh, I'm so sorry, I can't hear you. There's a bad internet connection.
Yeah, my sound is messed up. I heard you, Jeff, and congratulations. That sugar is one of the most addictive things, I guess, on the planet. So, but then someone was talking and it was distorting for me.
Thank you very much. Anne, could you say again what you were saying? Because your voice was not coming through.
I don't know if it's on here. Let's see. I think she got knocked off.
Yeah, I don't see Anne.
Yeah, because I've lost her screen. Uh-huh.
So if she re-enters fetish state, would we need to allow her in, or is that automatic now? Uh-oh. I think fetish goes on.
We lost Ferris Day too, right? We lost our moderators.
Yeah, people are just getting off. I don't know why.
Good. There she is.
Hi, Anne.
Hi, Anne. Oh, you're muted.
Did anybody else drop out? I just lost my, okay. That's never happened before. That was interesting.
We're so happy you're back.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm happy.
Oh yeah.
I'm happy
Oh yeah.
too.
Oh yeah.
Okay, where were we? Gosh.
You were trying to say something
about quitting sugar. That Jeff had beat the sugar. Addiction.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I like to eat sugar, but I know it's inflammatory and it causes pain and all these things.
Yeah.
But that's probably the biggest addiction I'll turn to, is some comfort in a cookie or something. I'm addicted to cookies.
Yeah, I discovered from my naturopath that inflammation is basically my issue. And so everything that tastes yummy is acidic and causes inflammation. So it's just a balancing act, really. Oh, what do you fail to see when you're, that's where we were. Because I realized since you all wanted to finish this, I think we just want to keep moving on. What do you fail to see when you're believing the thought, I want my body to stop having aches and pains? And already I've heard some great things, but just repeat it here if you feel like it.
I was going to say that I'm doing sanskaras really, really fast.
You fail to see that that's not going to change. You fail to see, no matter what you think and hope, you're not accepting what is. As difficult as it is to accept pain, what do you fail to see when you believe that thought that I wanted to leave? You're believing in an illusion of your thought form, and the thought is completely out of touch with reality, because the pain ain't going to stop. And when one
stop, it very well could stop.
Well, when one is in pain, usually it doesn't leave within the next 30 seconds because you want it to leave. I'm not at a place within myself where I can just be with it because I realize this is it. I'm not at that place I would love to be. This is it, Jeff. This is it.
Yeah, well, that's a great point about acceptance. Acceptance is really important. So let's move on to question 4 in the turnarounds. Who would you be without the thought, I want my body to stop having aches and pains? And your body's still having aches and pains, but you're just not thinking that thought that you want it to stop. Who are you without that thought? I just feel surrendered. There's some kind of, just a surrender to something that's so much bigger than me. And anyway.
I feel free to focus elsewhere and just kind of get on with it. I mean, when you have pain 24/7, it's like, are we going to have a life, or are we going to, I've been everywhere with it, obsessing on it and what to do and how to get it rid. And finally, just, when things are going well with my mental, I like Jeff says, the first thing is to accept that it is, stop fighting it.
Yeah.
And then just focus, on Baba, and then say, well, where do you want to go now, Baba? What do you want me to do? And maybe it's like the laundry or cooking or this or, and just get on with the day type of thing.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. So let's move on to the turnarounds in the interest of time, because we're going to try and do 3 inquiries today. I want my body to stop having aches and pains. So this will be 2.1, I think is the way I marked it. There it is. So like we talked about last week, when we do the work on the body, instead of turning it to me, we want my thinking about my body to stop having aches and pains. So notice, this is kind of a metaphor, but notice where our thinking can be kind of achy and painy. And try to find an authentic, specific example for, I want my thinking to stop having aches and pains.
I'm having trouble hearing the speaker. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two.
Unfortunately.
Maybe it's Tina's audio. You sound like a robot.
I think it's finished. I think it's at the circle of friends. I think that it's just I don't know, something's up with the audio, which is unfortunate.
I hear you, Diantha, very well. Uh-oh, we lost her again. Oh, dear.
Yeah, it's one of those days.
Well, I know for me about my thinking and to stop having aches and pains, when I'm thinking about it, it magnifies it, as I said earlier. And thought does affect our body, and we can, within a certain realm, we can make it worse or make it less, or, but I am struck by, with Jeff, what Jeff had said, first I must accept it. That's very true for me. First I must stop fighting it. But then when I do, I try to draw light. I think of Baba. All those things help diminish it a little. Might not get rid of it, but it helps make it less.
So I'm getting a message that my internet connection is unstable. Can you hear me, Diantha? Okay, so I'm gonna just keep coming back if it happens, but if you can just do the inquiries, if I keep dropping out, just carry it on. Okay. I think that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, we continued a little. We knew you'd be proud if we did. So.
I am. Isn't that the point of it all, that we all internalize this work? But so I don't know where you are, so why don't you just continue?
Well, we're going to I've just coming up with examples, specific examples for changing what we're thinking instead of wanting the pain to stop and begging for that to happen, maybe wanting the thinking around the pain to stop and begging for that to happen. So I can definitely relate with that. I live with a lot.
That sounds really doable, It's so important to be able then, so, Katie says the work only works when you live it. So our takeaway from these sessions then is to remember when we're in the midst of the battle with our aches and pains, to remember to integrate these awarenesses that we get while we're doing this inquiry. And that is really helpful. So why don't you just, I don't know where you are, so why don't you just carry on? You're still muted, Diantha.
We're at the next turnaround, I think. So turning around to the opposite.
Well, why don't you go ahead? I think this is very good. We need to have a backup plan here.
I don't want my body to stop having aches and pains. Can we think of any specific examples where that rings true? Could possibly be true.
Well, you gave a beautiful example for that earlier, Diantha, when you said it gives you compassion and empathy for others. That would be, I think, a perfect example here.
It's also, you know, it's limit setting and it's Baba just, you know, maybe speaking to me through my body sometimes, I think, and just saying, you can't take this on. Or you need to be alone and feel this pain, or, you know, it's just, it has because I've lived with chronic pain too, so I get it. It's terrible. I know what it's like, and it's like, it's given me so much opportunity to be by myself. So it's funny, it's always kind of worked out and given me, like I read all of Meher last time I was in India because I was on my back, like in bed.
Yeah, gives you time out from the busy life. I love that example. I love that. Anyone else have one?
I worked out with Baba and became very clear to me at a certain point in my life that because I would just be taken down. It's like, you know, if you can make it to the bathroom, you're doing really well, and back to the bed. And then I have had periods where I'm doing a lot of different things, and so he gave me this awareness that when I do go down like that, say, that is his time, that he wants to work with me inwardly, and I do that. And then when I have the energy, because I'm a type A, I'm up, I'm pushing it. And then that's the time to do the world, you know, all right, now we're in the world, you know. But if I frame it that way, because I'm a terrible patient, I hate being in bed, I don't, you know, but when I go, oh, all right, time for inward work, it just makes it, you know, really bearable and makes me more available to Baba.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful. Anyone else before we move on to our next inquiry on the advice we would give our body? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is number 3 on the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. And the generic statement that I hope works for you is, my body should respond better to my ministrations. Now, if that doesn't work for you, you find your own advice to give the body as we take you through the 4 questions. Okay? Gentle breath, dropping back inside. Is it true that your body should respond better to your ministrations? Is that true? No.
No.
Okay. So for those who said yes, can you absolutely know that it's true that your body should respond better to your ministrations? Can you absolutely know that that's true? And you have to unmute yourself if you want to be heard.
Can you give an example of ministering to your body? I'm not sure I understand.
Well, it would be all of I was trying to find something that was fairly general. So my ministrations to my body are the different exercises or foods or supplements that I take. I would just call all of those things my ministrations. Or you could say efforts, respond better to my efforts. But that's what I'm referring to. It's just a big basket for all the things that we do, you know, to be healthier.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, yeah. So, can you absolutely know that it's true that your body should respond better to your ministrations?
No.
No.
So how do you react when you believe the thought that your body should respond better to your ministrations? What happens when you're believing that thought? Just notice. We don't need to put up the sub-questions this time because it's nice. What you really want to do is internalize these sub-questions. And the reason we use sub-questions is because it's easy to just go into a story about how you react. You might say, I think this, I think that. But how you react is more about what emotions you feel, what sensations. So just notice, when I'm believing the thought that my body should respond better to my ministrations, what emotions do I feel? I'm irritated with my body. What?
I'm anxious and
anxious.
Fretting, you know,
yes.
Unsettled.
And I'm also impatient. Get really impatient. So everyone, if you found your emotions, now see if you can locate where you feel that in your body. Like I'm noticing that my irritation and frustration almost feels like a caffeine rush. It's kind of a jangling feeling throughout my whole body when I'm believing that my body should respond better to my ministrations. If anybody else has something they'd like to share, because it helps us all, now's the time.
Well, my body responds great to my ministrations. It's that I don't minister to it like I know I ought to.
Oh,
My body is very, very, very cooperative.
It sounds like you don't need to do a lot of ministering to your body.
Well, if I do it, it responds. So it's confusing. Like if we do the things that the body needs, like healthy food and exercise and fresh air and good thoughts, deeds, words, whatever, you know, the body is perfectly healthy. It's the not doing that poor body doesn't deal with, you know.
Well, I have a thought about what you said. Would you like to hear it?
Uh-oh, I'm cut off again.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna, this isn't exactly the work, but from what you just said, my feeling is that your body probably doesn't need a lot of administrations. I only do administrations because of the aches and pains and things, you know. And if you're feeling pretty good, to me, it's just kind of natural not to think about all the things you need to do, you know. Because one of the things I love about being with Baba is that he's not a fanatic. And he's really helped me with my own tendency towards fanaticism. So anyway, anybody else? Okay, so who would you be without the thought that My body should respond better to my ministrations. Who are you without that thought?
More of a friend to my body.
Beautiful. Yeah, my sense about the body is that it's a really ideal to have it, consider it as a faithful friend. You know, it never leaves us until it leaves. It's really faithful. So let's go ahead and turn the thoughts around. So that will be 2.2, Diantha. My body should respond better to my ministrations. So while Diantha's finding that, we turn it around to ourself. My thinking should respond better to my ministrations. My thinking about my body should respond better to my ministrations. So ponder that and just see what comes up for you. This is sort of a puzzle, you know, to explore. I feel that's what we're doing right now in this session. We're really working on our thinking about our body. And the purpose of this work is so that our thinking will respond better to these ministrations of questioning all of our stressful thoughts about our body. So if anybody has something they could share, we would love to hear that. I think my big takeaway from our session today is I feel much kinder towards my body. I think I can just be more gentle with whatever it is I have to suffer through. And I think that is an outcome of working on my thinking about my body, responding better. Okay, if there's no more examples, why don't we look at the turnaround to the opposite? This is always a difficult one. My body shouldn't respond better to my ministrations. And, you know, when I work with clients, I always tell them there's always a free pass on this turnaround to the opposite because it's reality. And reality rules. So my body shouldn't respond better to my ministrations if it isn't. That's just the way it is. So that's always an example that works in the turnaround to the opposite.
I have no problem with this because, you know, it's my limited, well, when I look at it, it's my limited self that's coming up with ministrations, and I don't really hold much count with it. I mean, I kind of do, but for the good. But you know, I think that when the mind thinks that it knows something, that it's supposed to cure the body, like, you know, what Ferris Day said, well, if I eat good food and I get sun and I take a walk and I do all this stuff, then my body will be fine. But that's not necessarily true. And the body has
sure ain't. Yeah.
Forgetting that the body is way smarter than my limited mind when it comes to the body. And so if I go to my body shouldn't respond to my ministrations, and I really embrace that in my heart, then it can still my mind to be able to hear what my body's trying to tell it wants right now. And sometimes that's really counter to what my mind would ever say. Like, for instance, my body might say, I want potato chips. I mean, this is really simple. When I'm desperately low in salt, and the you know, rather than taking salt from a salt shaker, the only thing around are potato chips, you know, and I eat them, and my body feels 1,000 times better, like somebody just gave me medicine, you know. And I would never do that with my mind, because my mind goes, well, potato chips aren't good for the body. You know what I mean? It's
yeah, thank you. when you began with your example, it just felt like you gave such a much vaster picture, like you were conveying this really big picture, and I so appreciate that. And then you brought it to that specific example, and I just know that that's truer, you know, than the original statement. Sometimes potato chips are the perfect medicine, and I remember giving myself permission to eat them because Baba would go on picnics, you know, in Europe with the Westerners, and they would eat potato chips and radishes, and I don't know, whenever I have stories like that, then I always want to do what they did. So thank you for that. Anybody else? Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, you know, if you crave chocolate, sometimes you're just like dangerously low in magnesium, and that is a quick magnesium. So I mean, you know, it's like, who would have thunk? But if the body is going, so.
Well, and it's a much nicer way to live than to be utterly rigid, you know. And one of the things that helps me not to be completely rigid is because there's so many varying opinions about, you know, health. It's like nobody's got the answer, and
everybody's different.
And anyway, and ultimately, we're just going to drop the old body and, you know, pick up with another one. And my prayer is always, can I just keep going forward and not make the same mistakes, you know, in my youth? But that's all in Baba's hands too. So let's go on to our last inquiry for the day. This is what we need in order to be happy. And so my generic statement is, I need my body to support me better. And we're going to do a really quick inquiry through this. And it's kind of nice sometimes to do a quicker inquiry, because as you internalize this process of self-inquiry, it becomes automatic. And when you're just out and about and you identify this stressful thought that just passes through your mind will automatically go, is it true? And then you're automatically, you end up going through it and you find the turnarounds, and it's laid to rest without ever getting anything down on paper. So, so in that sense, I think it's good today to have this quicker inquiry. So I need my body to support me better. Is that true? And the other thing I just want to share here is when I'm working with a client and they've done a really thorough inquiry on the first statement, which is what I call the umbrella statement, the rest of the worksheet generally just collapses because the mind has been laid to rest. And when I read this statement, that's how I feel. I need my body to support me better. It's like I've already done the work on it and I feel at peace about it. And does anybody else have any comment in that regard before we continue on? Okay, so is it true? Is it true that you need your body to support you better? And just unmute if you feel like it, to just give your yes or no, and then I'll know when to go on.
No.
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 Yes.
So let's go on to question 2. I think I heard somebody say yes. Can you absolutely know that it's true that you need your body to support you better? Just take a minute and just dive deep inside. And no matter what answer you found, it doesn't matter. We're going to move on to question 3. How do you react when you believe the thought, I need my body to support me better? What happens? What emotions do you feel? I notice I feel a sinking feeling in my heart. So I notice the sensation. And I think the feeling is actually discouragement. So when I'm believing I need my body to support me better, I feel discouraged, and it's a sinking feeling in my heart. Does anybody else have anything they could share about how you react, what emotions you feel when you're believing that thought? I need my body to support me better. So let's move on. Who would you be without the thought that you need your body to support you better? Who are you without that thought? Definitely feel more identified with my soul and with peace. I feel peace without the thought. I feel more resigned to God's will. Anyone else care to share who you are without the thought that you need your body to support you better?
I feel more empowered, and when I believe that it should be paying more attention, I feel real disempowered and kind of crumpled up, you know.
Yeah.
But when, you know, believe that releases me to feel the power that is of my soul.
Thank you. Yeah, I just notice it's all about how body identified we are. The more body identification we have, then the more we suffer. So let's do the turnarounds. So this is the last one, Diantha 2.3. I need my body to support me better. So again, we're going to go to the thinking. I need my thinking about my body to support me better. And we've really done this in the previous turnarounds, but let's just see if there's anything left that you notice. I need my thinking about my body to support me better. I really notice as we've been doing the inquiry today, my thinking about my body has become a lot kinder. I feel like I'm having kind thoughts and acceptance of my body. Anybody else notice anything?
Yeah, I like to, especially now, like I'm really panicking about COVID. And, you know, my mother once said I should become a Christian Scientist. Worry about my health. And, you know, I tried it.
You tried. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? I need my thinking about my body to support me better. We've kind of covered this, you know, it feels like we've covered a lot of territory here. So let's just move on to the last turnaround. I don't need my body to support me better. And we just talked about this, you know, it's really just accepting what is, loving and trusting reality, and that there's, you know, God's plan is totally embracing this universe, as hard as it is sometimes to accept. Everything is ultimately for the good, and Baba has stressed that over and over again. All these things just have to come out.
It's hard to see it now.
Tina, do you notice though from doing the inquiry, does it lighten it up a little bit for you?
No, I'm still, it's so huge, Anne. It's so,
I know.
It's so huge.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
well,
in a state of hypervigilance, although, you know, I'm in a place where we have very few cases now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, fortunately, our inquiry circle is a wonderful time to be together to talk about Baba and commune with him. And I do have some closing statements from Baba. From
I'd like to ask you one question, though. If we die with his name on our lips, we're going to come to him. But what if we don't? What if we're on a ventilator or something? We can't say it.
You say it in
Good
your heart.
question. I don't, you know, I think for me personally, I just feel like Baba knows our hearts. And if we were on a ventilator and he knew that our greatest desire was to have his name on our lips, I surely wouldn't worry about it. I just wouldn't.
And then, like, what if it struck by a car or something? And
same thing. Baba is all merciful. Okay, here's a funny story. I think you might like this, Tina. Right after I came to Baba in 2001, I had planned a trip to Mehrabad, and then 9/11 happened. And my link to Baba, he calls me and he goes, well, I suppose you're not going to India now. And I said, no, more than ever I'm going. And, you know, the Pilgrim Center was pretty empty and all of that. So my friend was there who had introduced me to Baba. He and his wife were there. And they said, when we were flying home, they put us on these big jets that were empty because of 9/11. And we had to, like, be in a big plane that carried lots of fuel because of the airspace. We had to fly way around whatever countries were dangerous. And he was saying, so you have to take Baba's name, you know, no matter what happens, if we're going to die, you have to take Baba's name. And I said to him, but if I just say Baba, Baba, maybe, how do I know that, you know, I won't go to Sai Baba, you know, the dude, whatever he's called. So that's my story for you. And they really got a chuckle out of that one. Baba knows our hearts. That's all I can say. And I have some nice quotes from him. Although I realized I jumped ahead. I want to finish the worksheet with you quickly, just in a few minutes, because number 5 is the complaints we have about our body. So I had written my body is aching, weak, unresponsive, stiff, fatigued, out of shape, hurting, declining, hopeless. And I'm just going to remind you what we do with that number 5. We find where our body is the opposite. Now, the body doesn't ache 100% of the time, so I can find that. I said my body is weak. I could find where it's strong. I mean, when I have to be strong, I'm really strong. And I just dug 3 big bags of chicken poop yesterday in the heat, and I was strong. You know, so wow. Just notice whatever you're believing that's negative, notice that the opposite is also true. And this is something you can do on your own. And then for number 6, what is it about this body that we don't ever want to experience again? And Diantha and I wrote a few things. I don't ever want to complain about my body again. I don't ever want my body to hurt anymore. I don't ever want my body to stop me from doing what I want to do. I don't ever want to feel like my body is letting me down. And then you find what works for you, what you don't ever want to experience again. And then you say, I'm willing to. Because when we do experience that thing again that we don't want to experience, it's because that's reality. And we have to embrace it. We have to accept it as gracefully as we can. And then we say, I look forward to, and as I've told you before, I'm not there yet. I don't look forward to pain and suffering, but I'm willing. I'm definitely willing. So now with that having been said, I'm going to share.
I wanted to just something that just occurred to me too about pain and suffering and being scared and being on a ventilator and all of that. Baba also does say that, you know, first of all, if you remember him every day, that you naturally will remember him at the end. He tells you that, Tina. So I know you're remembering him every day, at least once a day.
moment of death. I mean, what if it's instantaneous? Like something falls on my head.
I bet you would remember Baba.
Even then, I
would
bet.
just shout out, Baba!
Yeah, because he says.
Maybe I wouldn't have time.
It's. I think it was also a way for him.
I won't.
Okay.
And,
So,
and I also wanted to just say that suffering, he says that suffering brings you closer to God. And so instead of thinking about the pain or the suffering as something that's making you further apart from him, it's bringing, if I can reframe it to think, well, bringing me closer to him, then that's a little bit of a positive spin.
I mean, Baba is so non-dual, and the mind cannot comprehend non-duality because the mind is very dual. So that's why we just want to go beyond it and find those stressful thoughts and question them and lay them to rest. So here's some closing quotes about the body from Baba. And this one is from Lord Maher from 1926, The Silence Begins. Baba said, "A person dies when his sanskaras are exhausted, spent in full. After a person dies, his sanskaras snap the mind's connection with the gross body. At that time, he receives such a shock that he forgets every incident of his past life. But even though the gross body drops, the mind and the subtle body remain full of sanskaras." So then we come back again, right? And here's another one from Baba. He says, this is from the Western Sahavas in 1958 from Lord Maher. "To come to me means liberation. Experiencing me as I am, no more bondage of births and deaths. But it does not mean the state of a perfect master or perfection. That is only to be attained while alive in the gross body." So if you're going to be a perfect master, you're going to take it all the way home. And then from the new life in 1949, as they were getting ready for the new life, it was written by Bao that, let's see. Okay. The whole night, this is right before the new life started, the sky remained overcast. As the drums of the new life sounded, the heavens wept in abundance. The tears of Meribad and of his lovers shed in love made the angels' hearts weep also. Seeing the depth of Meribad's love, they too became anxious to spend their lives in the proximity of the avatar. As this divine love can only be experienced on the gross plane in a physical body. And I love that because it reminds me of how precious this life is. The angels weep to have the experience that we're allowed to have in a gross body, to come to Baba. And then the last quote I have is from 1965. So the one object. This is Lynn Ott. And after his meeting with Baba, he said, "The one object representing reality in the gross world." He wrote a beautiful paragraph, and I'm just going to read the last one. He says, "Before I came to know of Meher Baba, painting was my religion. I knew no other. On that blessed day when Baba sent that long gaze into my eyes, he made himself the substance of my religion. The face that I saw when I saw Baba is actually the face of God, manifested in form. This is what God looks like in this age, in this world, in that body. It is actually the face of God, projected through fiery firmaments all the way through into the gross plane of consciousness, so that we can see a gross human face there, which is actually nothing more than the reflection of the face of God as it really is." Isn't that beautiful?
Wow.
And what a beautiful image that you projected for us. Thank you, Diantha. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
to
you, Anne.
you. And
You're
Thank you. Thank you,
welcome.
Anne.
what are you going to be doing next week? Do you know?
So yes, I know you don't want to do this, Tina, but I think you'll love it. We are going to do a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet on beloved Baba. And
Okay.
and I can promise you from my own experience, it just brought me closer to him. Because here's the thing, we have these beliefs about who God is that we carried over from many lifetimes, and we project them onto Baba. So when we find what we're thinking and believing about him, and hopefully I'll be able to get the generic statements, and I'll work with Diantha if you have time, Diantha, we can kind of hammer it out together. It's an amazingly liberating process, and I feel very much that Baba supports this. He doesn't mind us blaming him and complaining to him, especially when it brings us closer to him. So
Yeah.
that's the plan, but we'll spend 4 weeks on that. We're going to take it really slow and easy, and everyone is always welcome to email me with feedback, with things you would like to have happen, anything maybe that you would like to include in this worksheet on Baba. I love our communion and our camaraderie, and I'm so grateful for it. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Anne.
Jai
Thank you.
Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you, Anne.
Bye, Dan.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Tina.
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.